Okay, and we're live again. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to TFC Live, Season 3, Episode 34, Take 2. Okay, and changes.
The sequel.
Yeah, the sequel. Yeah, exactly. So, why is the question? Okay, if you managed to see the Battle Pirates live, obviously from the Kickside guys, then and you've read some of the forum stuff, then I think it was worthwhile. And Ren also thought as well that we would literally put out a quick half-hour show just to basically encapsulate all the key things that have happened over the last 48 hours. Some of it sort of like was instigated yesterday on the update, but there's been even more developments today and that sort of stuff. So this is why we are doing it. What should we start with? Should we start with the cycle? Do you want to start with the FM? Where do you want to go first? Ren, what do you want to pick first, mate?
Let's talk about skirmish first, I guess.
Okay.
Or do you want to talk about the calendar first, the short, packed calendar?
Yeah, okay. Let's talk timelines then first. Yeah, that would be a good one. So, from what I know, then obviously we've got the end of this month. Literally, the end of this month we have got the start, obviously, of the bounty. So that will be kicking off on the 30th, and that will run through obviously until Monday the 3rd, and then it's literally you've got 48 hours breathing space, and then the Thursday the 6th you're going to go straight in. Okay, then to a raid. No FM in between, obviously, because there's just not enough time. So we're only going to get
2 weeks of FM, right?
We're only going to get the 2 weeks of FM, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that part of the reason they were trying to encourage people to buy those tokens? The 6 seems odd that there was a couple of everybody wants obviously the missile defense system freeze, and all of a sudden there was a nice little gift of not a gift, but you can buy them, but two 1-day build tokens, and then those MDS freeze as well to encourage you to go and get them. Not sure. I mean, the thing that's frustrating me is 3 massive events in 1 month of paycheck. That's really crazy. But it is what it is, and they aren't going to change it now. So just what we say it. Whether that then resets the bar, because if that's on the 6th, then that means then that obviously going into September, that would put bounty back again then at the end of the month. I'm not really sure. Thoughts, guys? What do you think?
Oh, if they do, they're saying our raid's going to be on not next week, the one after, right? So we have this week and next week FM. So September 5th or 6th.
6th, yeah. 6th through till the 6th right through, yeah.
In theory, you're right. So the next weekend, the weekend of the 14th would be VXP. The weekend of the 21st would be Bounty? Or do they skip that one and the weekend of the 28th is Bounty?
I hope it's the weekend of the 28th, because that would put us back online roughly then, because that would be a week, 5th week. That would be Thursday the 11th then of October for the next raid.
And in the end, I mean, in August, they delayed the raid by a week and everyone was yay. And now they are advancing it by a week and everybody hates it because I think you mentioned we're going to have raid, VXP weekend, bounty, raid, VXP weekend. It's going to be 5 weekends in a row with an event.
Give up your day job.
If you consider VXP weekend an event, I kind of do. But.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. One of the reasons I always use my mega hulk, so I haven't got to do the PvP stuff because, it's frustrating as hell. Timeline is something we can't change. We can do our best to influence, but these things also catch us out sometimes. I had no idea they were going to run the raid on the 6th and that sort of stuff. Logically, actually it would have been the week after. It nearly always, is the 2nd Thursday, which would have been the 13th, and it just hasn't been.
Yeah, I'm just feeling, as many players I know are too, just feeling burned out with so much Battle Pirate content, Battle Pirate events. We're back to a place where, on one hand, my mind is hearing, oh, no new PV content in August, that's great. Oh, tons of tokens everywhere, that's great. But on the other hand, it's like, oh my God, is it ever do they expect me to ship my family somewhere else and just play Battle Pirates? Because it's not going to happen.
It does seem that way at the moment, I have to say. Robin, thoughts? Anything you want to?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, there's always been the time versus coin component, and how much time are you going to spend doing stuff, and just event after event after event, and then the time for your normal chores and everything else. It's just, we talk about content overload. How about event overload?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we're not talking about blueprint overload, because we'll
and
discuss that in a bit. But
yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, it's not even like a coin overload, because honestly, I mean, in RAID, the fact I could do 2 T8 sets and spend, like, if I wanted to coin the 2 sets, 8 coins, I think, without the Grease Monkeys was 4 coins per set. And then I would get 5 days of ship build tokens for the ships I wanted, right? So 5 days would usually cost nearly 500 coins. And I could get that for 8 coins. So in terms of value for the money, it was great.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's just so much seat time playing the game to get those things. And partially, the reason I want them is because they have this impending PvP refactor that I don't know how it's going to change my build.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm going to progress in the game. I'm just going to have to fix my ships with those tokens.
Yeah, but that leaves a huge pool of players that who thankfully, I mean, Kix did a good thing. They put the TLC, the co-op TLC out there to allow everybody to get the Manti, and these guys are still trying to finish their Mantis that they got with all of their tokens. They're now shortened that window of being finished, and with a 3/4 filled fleet, they're not able to pull to get all of the tokens. So there's an issue with the folks that are just now building their Mantis, trying to get those, scrambling to get those done before the next event, which is, to get the whole for the next 3-month event. So
yeah, and without the tokens for, like, even the Makara Manticore, there were a bunch of tokens in RAID. I mean, if people got those, I mean, and I don't know how many would be able to get them without having the Manticore. So that's the catch-22 there.
Yep.
Yeah,
unless people are prepping. But anyways, I think in terms of the calendar,
we're done.
If that is a one-time transition thing and it's not going to happen again for a long time, it sucks. But
Suck it up, buttercup.
What can I do? I mean, worst case, I'm just going to do like I did last bounty. I took very easy on that bounty. I didn't get the top prize. I didn't even think about going for it. But otherwise, you just burn out. Just can't.
Well, you can get it in the next FM anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, eventually. like I spent 15 million points on that turret, and now it's on FM. I hate that too.
Yeah, I mean, anybody. I mean, that's a different thing. We've got this is sort of split into a 5-way conversation. So, and we're going to try and keep this to 30 minutes. So, okay, calendar sucks, but let's move on. Right, let's go into this skirmisher thing. Okay, and the reason they've said, and I've got Wrong Thinker's little statement up here that he's got on the forum. The reason they pushed it back, A, was the refactory for PvP, but also the fact that they wanted to make sure that they wanted to get the targets balanced with the hulls, 2 hulls. Okay, note. 2 holes, 1 definite auto and 1 definite skill. However, you can only take 1 in the first event, and built correctly, it will be just as good as the other in all the targets, noting though that some targets have slightly different targetry in them than the other ones. That's a contradictory in terms to me. Don't see how you can do all that. Have a skill hull that's not taking damage because it's skillful, doing exactly the same, and as well as or better than, or not better than, an auto hull that is just point and click.
What they're saying is like there's no. Sorry, did they change the statement? Because the original statement was like there's no auto hull and skill hull anymore. Both can be driven, and both can be let to run on auto.
Actually, driven. Yeah, so see, that's my point. So that's blitzing. That's different. So that's not auto. You can auto anything you like in the game. There's no point saying you've got an auto hull when you're taking 3 times the damage of the skill hull, or 2 times the damage of the blitz hull that is then said to be good for autoing.
And that's a variable we don't know, right? Like, what's going to be the damage multiplier if you just go through the phone app and auto a target?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, and I was halfway through before I had to jump on here. We know that they've got the two hulls. Is this a situation because it's skirmish where we've got one's a sub and one's a surface hull, in which case, I can understand why having the two different holes, because not everybody is as good as Liam and can drive their subs as well as him. And there are people that just want to go ahead and use the surface hole. But if it's not a situation like that, where it's just two different flavors of something, why are we spending time developing a second hull and a highly complex target to account for auto versus non? Why is there not just one hole drive it two different ways?
I'm going to articulate that my way. These are not words by anyone else. It's just like, clearly, without them ever saying, there's some sort of economics problem for them as a company publishing this game with the 4-month cycle, because last year we were in the 3-month cycle and players were being driven nuts, right? Without the content overload and 2 fleets to build and blah, 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 blah. Then they moved to 4 months and something broke internally. They never admitted, they never said that openly, but something broke because they had to come up with this stupid proto family of holes because they felt like players didn't have enough to build. So 4 months with 1 fleet led to, hey, you know, like the top coiners or the all the players who are caught up, whatever, having that fleet of manticores built early. And now it's like 2 months or so where you don't really have anything to build. So they came up with these band-aid holes, proto this, proto that, proto whatever, and created a target to make them useful, just so people had something to build, to keep the hamster wheel turning at the speed that makes them enough money. That's my conclusion, okay? So now they're going back to 3 months because they realized the whole proto hole thing is a dud. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think a single soul in this game liked having to build another skirmish fleet with prototypes or another siege fleet shortly after we had to build 2 fleets of each for the raid cycle. Would you disagree? I mean, the proto holes are not true.
And we're going to talk about the protos specifically in a sec. That's one of the 5 things I want to cover, basically. Because I have got both sets of fleets, you know. But the problem is, you know, I'm that sort of person that will do that, because I like to get behind and I like building my fleets and testing and that sort of stuff and you know, helping people out. But my concern is, you know, to say that you've got yours, as you've said, you know, you built your manties, and I did for the very first raid. 6th refit I've had, 6 refits on 1 hull. I mean, that's ludicrous. I mean, talk about escalation with no escalation. There's been no escalation weapons, but we've had like the craziest need to keep changing things and that sort of stuff just to try and, you know, limit the damage that I hadn't, and I'd stuck with the same build that I'd had right at the very start. It would have been horrendous.
Yeah, the anti missile mess and change, and you know, first raid it was the sprints, then it was the phalanx, then it was back to sprints, then it was the MBS.
Well, okay, I'll let you into a secret.
Or even the Darkwing CIC that came to fix the manticores because they were kind of messed up. Anyways, just to finish my thinking. So they moved back to 3, and now they're saying, and I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives because it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, I like the fact they're saying proto holes were a dud. We're not going to proceed with that. Like, we're only going to release the assault because it's there, but that's it. Great. So the message, the underlying message to me is like, nobody needs that proto assault hole. That's how I read that.
No,
there's no future for them, right?
I know, I agree. I mean, yeah. So what they basically said
was, sorry, go ahead.
What they actually said then, this is the last time you're going to see proto holes in the game for some time. So there won't be the next 2 ones will not come out. So the SSRBs will not be finished. It'll be some time.
Not really. Now you're putting words in their mouth. I mean, they never said the SSRB won't be finished. They just said we won't need proto holes to do.
You won't be seeing proto holes, is what he said, yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't mean they can't release the 4th corner of the SSRB, the garrison corner, in a way that the Inferno Dragon can do.
That'll be ridiculous, but there we go.
Right, I mean, finish the target. I mean, if I'm Maestro, like, finish the freaking SSRB, but make it so the existing holes we built for raids and FM can do that. We don't need a proto hole just for that crap, because I'm not building that. I'm not hitting them, you know.
I mean, I mean, it's I've persevered and refitted a couple of times my proto fleets to make them worthwhile, or try to justify maybe why I actually started building in the front. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure, but I'm still not content with them, and I'm probably one of the people that sort of likes to build an awful lot of ships. And
you spent a lot of time on the proto hulls, and I way more. Like I didn't finish ever a Proto Centurion fleet. I have one, I think, or two. Yeah. And the prototypes I finished with tokens, and I don't use them.
I mean, I've got the as a side note, the siege one down to under an hour with the protos, but it's still not acceptable. It's 14 cannon shots.
Again, it's a totally irrelevant target. You can get base parts from the targets on map with Hydras or Buccaneers.
Yeah, but as opposed to PvP, and I like to try and beat the system, and the problem is it's a broken mechanic before it started. But yeah, anyway.
Anyways, just to keep this concise. So the next thing is good thing. No more CICs. I'm happy with that.
So these two new hulls that are coming out, there are no CICs to fit on them. They're back to the the original state of like the Hydras and the Phoenixes and that sort of stuff, or going back
not
to
the Hydra, the Buccaneer, the Phoenix, the Skyfires.
Sorry, not the the Buccaneers and that sort of stuff, So none of that messing around. And they actually admitted that once you try to put a CIC onto a hull, like they did with the Manti, and put two of them on there, actually it makes it harder for them to then control and deliver what they wanted.
Yep.
For the player, So
like 3 months. I don't know if that's better than 4 months. I think it all depends on, how much time building. But now they're saying at the same time, okay, it's going to be 3 months, but we are bringing down the build time of the hull.
30%, as they've said.
And there's no CIC. Okay, I like all of that. The other good thing is there's no escalation weapons. They just said there will be lateral power move weapons. So lateral power move, to explain to everyone, if anyone doesn't understand the concept, is just like we had the Panthera scattergun and then the Cheetah scattergun. And if you look at their reload, damage, all the statistics are exactly identically the same, except each one provides a different small bonus. One gave 4% corrosive, the other gave 5% speed. That's what a lateral power move is. So you don't have to change your ships. You have a choice to change, you don't have to change. I think that's the key. I like that too.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what they say. They say that you can stick with one of the two holes and you won't need the second one. You can just pick.
But they also say there won't be a hard-coded restriction that you can only take, hole A on target A and hole B on target B to complete the set, blah, 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 which was a big problem before.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can take both. But they did say, hey, the targets will be tuned differently. So maybe you see that if you take weapon type A on that target, you do slightly better than weapon type B. And then it's a player's decision. So what I'm thinking is, if you only build a bat ray, you're going to do really well on one elite target, not so well on the other.
And no bonus.
Both are doable, and whatever Kixeye calls doable, I need to see to believe.
Yeah, I mean,
on the other hand, if you build the other guy, you're going to do well on target B and not so well on target A. So whoever builds both will do better in terms of lower repair time, probably, than people who try to do the set with just one.
Okay, but would you agree then that generically, like the Hydras and also like the Mantis, if you're going to have one hull that's going to do better than the other in one of the targets, it's generally better to have the blitzing one to do better in the blitzing target and then suffer a little bit of pain in the technical target, because the other way around, because they target one ship at a time like missiles do, and if it's going to be torpedoes, it's a freaking nightmare, because by the time you've targeted all the ships in a collective bunch, or whatever is going to come, subs if it's going to be subs because it's skirmish, you've taken a stack load of damage, which is exactly what's happening.
I agree with you. But here's the last good point I wanted to make. I think I made 4 of them in total. The last one is, finally, they're doing something that I've asked for so many times, for so long in town hall meetings and stuff. It's like, give players real choice. And I think every player in town hall agreed with that. Give players real choice. Every time in the past, they released one hull first. No choice. Now, if you want to get ready, you build this guy. And then a month later, with 3 days to go to the first raid, they release the second guy. Right?
Yep.
This time, they are truly giving us choice and releasing both at the same time, although you can only pick one.
Pick one, yeah.
Which is great. This is real choice.
Yep.
And then, segue to what you just said, TSM. that to me, I think you're right. If I look at one of them and one of them is trickier, or it's an accuracy-based weapon, and the other one's a splash guy, more of a blitzer guy, I would go with the splash guy first because it requires less skill, less attention. It's more tolerant to lag. I would agree with you there.
If we're using the BP app as well, you cannot really go with a skill hole on a BP app if you want to be doing that. Sometime you've got to go to work. Sorry, the average age is a 45-year-old person, playing this game, which means you're in the prime of your career and you've got stuff to do, including playing your addiction. So, it just has to be done. That to me, the only one that then works, even if you want to go down a tier, it's got to be that one. That's how I see it.
The other good thing is everybody will have a chance. I'm not saying everybody's going to get a chance of getting both combos before the first skirmish raid, because they said in September, the last assault raid, we'll have both on offer. You can pick only one. Then they said there will be TLCs offering both again, so you can pick the one you don't have, and hopefully tokens for both. So the first skirmish raid takes place in October. We'll have all the blueprints. In theory, we'll have a chance of having all the blueprints, but only to reasonably have one fleet built or partially built from the month before. Right?
Yeah. I'm just concerned about, we've got other holes to worry about and that sort of stuff. There's still another defender. You can't focus all your attention in such a short space of time on so many different things. And they want us to finish off the PvP stuff as well. So not only we got there's going to be a hull coming and that sort of stuff, and they've already said there's another PvP hull coming out very, very soon, and another one again in this bounty. So that's attacking hull, which is the concussive one, we know that. That's another defending hull, and then there's this skirmisher hull as well. Hello, these events are so close together, by God.
And with all the turrets and all the pieces for PvP, I think we three here can reasonably say we understand the game reasonably well. I'm even going to say maybe above average, but there's no way to mentally keep up with all that stuff. At some point, I'm just losing the plot here.
Yeah,
and then they're going to pile up the XP we can, raid, bounty, VXP we can, and all this content and all these choices, and oh my God, it's hard to keep the plot. That's my main concern.
Well, it's a huge time sink as well.
Yeah, true.
There are hardcore gamers. We all know that. There are people that are hardcore and on for hours and hours every day, but there are also a lot of people that have lives, kids, wives, and other stuff that they do, and don't necessarily have all of this time to do it. And if you think about it, based on the average age of the players, that not everybody has 4 straight weekends to give up to do stuff.
Yep.
The other thing that concerns me too, from the perspective of having 2 hulls potentially build 4 ways and then having to guess which is the right build, and the way that you want to do it is testing. It is a short raid. They have shortened the window. They've got less time for them to build, and less time for them to test. So I don't know. That's something else that needs to be looked at.
They said they've been testing. They have been consistently testing, is what they said.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hopeful that we don't have issues where there are the multiple refits. And they did speak to this on there, and they're right. They did have changes in developers, designers, CMs, and what have you. He spoke about the changes in the team. So it is a new group of people that are working on this, and so who knows? It may actually work out to be a lot better than what it has been in the past. But and even they said, basically the proof is in the pudding. And you've shortened the raid. You're going still to 2 hulls. You're talking about not necessarily having an auto versus a skill, but the same hull that can be driven, either driven well for less damage, or throw it in there and let it rip for maybe more damage. So there's a lot of people that are watching. There are a lot of people that are very concerned about the change. I'm happy that they are communicating it up front.
Yes. Great point, Ru. Just to emphasize that. One thing I got to give CM Chris, and Wrong Thinker, the fact that pretty much they brought the week back and they're weekly communicate every week, talking to us what's going to happen. Here's the calendar. These are the announcements. These are the changes. And having the video. Oh my God, I've never seen Kixeye communicating in such a predictable and open manner. I think in my 10 years playing Battle Pirates. Nearly 10, sorry, not 10 years, 8 years. I'm exaggerating.
Hope it stays. It is, yes, it's very refreshing to get this kind of stuff. And although, you know, it gives us days, well, not necessarily in this case because they brought their video earlier. But, you know, I know the flip side to that is they announce something and then we stew for 2 weeks wondering about what's going to happen or how it's going to be. But yes, very, very happy that they've communicated this. But, you know, Kix, there are a lot of people that are on the edge. There are a lot of people that are concerned, me included. I'm hoping that a lot of testing is being done so that whatever hull I choose, because I don't particularly feel like I want to build 2 of them, will work, and that I'm not going to be in a situation where Mark comes up with a really cool build A and I have a crappy build B, and then I have to do, you know, 700 refits. If the basic key components and weapons and specials for either hull, you know, both of them need to work and work well.
And Jeff, it's actually saying something on the YouTube chat that it's a fantastic, amazing question, and I'm not sure they answered that on the video today. It's like, okay, if both hulls can both run on auto and both can be driven and both can do all the top targets, why have 2?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
How are they different?
Unless you like drive, one is a sub and one isn't. And
that's what I was saying. Yeah, one surface and one sub.
Yeah, but then if one is a sub, I've never seen a sub that can do anything on auto.
Well, they said both targets. They said they would be able to do both targets. They didn't say they would be able to auto both targets, did they?
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Well, but I mean, it's basic logic, right? I mean, one of the sentences they used is new hulls are both auto and skill. This is on their forum post. New hulls are both auto and skill.
Yep.
And I'm going to read. Both hulls are being designed from the ground up to support auto play. But as always, you'll be able to improve your efficiency with high skill play.
Yeah, and that's basically what happened in the last
So
race.
whether you favor auto or skill play, either hull will work for you. So honestly, they are saying that both hulls are auto.
Yeah, okay. Look, I'm going to keep this one short. I'm trying to keep it just to 30 minutes, and we're basically there now. So just one thing, okay. Yes, and you said testing. We have not, you know, and we do get into the tests. We've not looked at this hull at all. So we can't tell you anything about either of the hulls, nothing at all, and that sort of stuff, you know. So there's no point putting any questions in because we just have seen nothing whatsoever. I'll keep that out for the start. Okay. Yes, we were in the testing for the Mantis. There were at least 2 sets of testing. And for those that have asked a question last month when we had, not this one that's just gone, but the previous raid set, when I streamed that very first stream of the first hour of the raid, I also put out actually a video at the same time hitting a top tier target. Now that video got a lot of people's backs up because actually it was a video that was taken from the preview. And I'll explain why now. Okay, right. As that live testing went out, they also changed the configuration of the countermeasures, and they refused, and I asked, and they refused to inform the players of the changes to the countermeasures. I thought it was the right thing to do was to put that video out the very second the raid went live, and then go on and do a live stream at the same time to prove that 2 weeks prior to the to the raid event happening, they already knew the right and the correct and the changes that happened to the countermeasures, and they should have been told and telling the players 2 weeks prior to the raid event happening, you need to change your countermeasures, and they refused to do so. So I was making a point. It didn't go down well, okay, because people went down the wrong avenue and thought I was doing something incorrect, but actually that was supposed to be for the players to understand that, yeah, if you were smart enough, you'd have noticed that that was a preview, and actually if you were looking at my live stream, it was the identical build. But it wasn't the build I had the month before because it didn't freaking work. But I was not allowed to tell anybody.
Right.
And
now, for more important news, The Big Bang Theory is coming to an end after its 12th season. It's just been announced in all the news outlets. There you go.
And anyway, yes, right. So, Robin, anything you want to close on? Because we're going to keep this one short. You're happy. So I hope you've got it. Look, we'll put this up on the page. Please, we'll leave it open underneath and put up any questions you've got, but do take your time to read the forums. You're going to need to. And if you can't get to the forums, then let us know. Okay, and then we'll put up some of the chat. But there's a heck of a lot of it at the moment. So,
now, are you guys feeling optimistic or pessimistic about the game right now?
I'm pissed off, but I suppose I'll ride the wave one more time because we've got no choice anyway. You know,
I'm in two minds. Posituru always tries to stay on top, but they did a whole lot of really good stuff just recently, and based on all of the other times that we've been through, it's like a whole lot of good stuff, and then you get schwacked with something else. I'm hopeful that they will live up to what the promises that they're making.
The thing I'd like to see is the week forward stretch the month forward. That would be really good. I see they're doing the calendar for the month, but it'd be nice to say, and I know they're doing the Friday show, but today is Wednesday. They didn't say by the way, it might also be next Wednesday. They haven't said that they're going to go back to Fridays yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But they said they'd let us know on the Friday week forward whether it's going to go on to next Friday or it'll be again on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure why they moved it, but probably because they wanted to get the information out about the FM as well. I'm not really sure. But if they're going to release information, and I like that they're contacting and they're giving sort of like the week ahead and that sort of stuff, but the key crunchy bits, they're still not freaking telling us. There are some key components there that they aren't telling us in enough time. And I'd just like them to connect on that little bit, and then we'll be in a much better place. We're not quite back to where we used to be. But I suppose the fact that it's a week, at least it's accurate. And so far, everything they've said has actually been put in place and has been actioned. We might not like some of the new features.
Let me ask you something. Sorry.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm going to make a statement, and you either agree or disagree. Okay? I'm just going to say, all these changes in PvP, all this flurry of content being accelerated, all the changes in the skirmish cycle, and then in parallel, stuff like hardware acceleration, global chat, new fleet management, I am impressed that they didn't break the entire game with so many changes in such a short period of time. So sometimes I have the impression, despite being overwhelmed and burnt out, I have the impression they are trying to fix the game for real, doing the right things, and with a relative good quality. I mean, so many changes and the game is not completely broken. That alone impresses me.
Hey, you know what? And I forgot to talk about this last night. You brought up a really cool point. The world chat, everybody was like, "Oh my God, this sucks. Why did they release this?" I actually used this and saw this in the raid where people were actually talking and prepping for other people in different sectors in their world, and the same thing for campaigns. So that was a not a huge thing, but a positive thing, to where people were actually, "Hey, does anybody need any preps, or can somebody prep me an 80?" And people were taking off and going there. So just a little positive thing about that.
Yeah, it would be nice to go.
Just to my point, I think they're doing something right in quality. I mean, it's not a perfect game, but but just wanted to say I think the worst part of the whole thing is just how fast all these changes are coming and how overwhelmed and burned out I'm feeling by that. I just want to know if you guys agree with that, the whole feeling of being burnt out of Battle Pirates and overwhelmed with all the changes.
Burnt out, yeah.
Yeah, and that is a huge concern, and I agree with that. I mean, there's only so much time in the day that I want to allow to play a game, just because there's other things that are going on, and I don't want to feel like, "Oh my God, I got to go do this, or I got to do that." So, and there's a lot of people that are feeling the same. They're feeling the crunch.
Yep.
Right, that's it. We'll wrap it there.
That's it.
Yep. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks for those for live chat. Cuts in there, I noticed that, and Jeff was in there as well. So thanks, guys, for helping out. I'm not sure if we managed to catch that many people's questions that are in the sidebar there, but please obviously put them on the page, link them to the link them to the show and that sort of stuff, and we'll do our best. Like I said, it is what it is. We can't change their schedule. They choose, and they're also driven by a lot of things like finances and that sort of stuff. So whilst I'm sure they probably want us to have a good time, but they also like to keep the home files.
I think those who survive the crunch now, eventually, I think we're headed in to a good place. It's just hard to see right now because honestly, it's just killing me.
It is. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Good night.
Night, guys.
Good night.